The City of Gaklagand is known as the Jewel of the Midlands. It rises from some large hills surrounded by rivers that wend their way across the rolling hills and plains of the Midlands' rich and fertile territory. This is the heartland of humans, with many cosy settlements of well-established otherkin on good terms with law and order. Within the walled city of Gaklagand, King Sonfa Smythe has reigned for 40 years. He is well loved, his taxes are mild, and the Midlands enjoy regular patrols by honourable, well-trained and well-equipped knights. Still, the world is ancient and mysterious. The city is no utopia, and brigands are good at avoiding shining knights on war horses, wearing their bright surcoats and pennant-tipped lances visible from quite a distance. Hearing tales of your character's exploits, the king has requested you attend a private meeting to be a guest at his table and enjoy the finest feast the Midlands offers. He has also sent his message with a royal courier who will ensure any who travel with him will have a safe and swift access to the city and the royal court through the patrolled trade trails, the local farmlands and the outer city bridge gates, the crowded inner city past the exterior walls and through the white stone gates of Gaklagand Castle. Towering over the city with a spectacular view of all the lands between the coastal mountains and the great western woods. The king shows some interest in the tale of the character's travels and battles. He is aghast at some parts, bemused by others, and tactfully asks a few questions about the settlement and folk of the coastal lands over the mountains and through the ancient ironwoods. He's never had the chance to travel that way. What with his royal duties, even in his youth as a prince, his time was devoted to his duties and training. His accomplishments in tournaments never meant much to anyone else, but the king's eldest son meant everyone thought he was always handed his victories. But he assures his guests this was not always the case. Still, he has only got to travel a little beyond the borders of the Midlands, and likely never will go further. His duty is to the land and its people, their well-being and prosperity, and to that end, he must ensure that even potential troubles are dealt with swiftly and securely. Stronger wine is poured in the bonfire, and the great fireplace of the feast hall burns brightly along with hundreds of candles, bathing many old war banners and the skulls of many huge beasts on the stone walls, as the king enjoys some rich desserts, and then gestures for a scribe to join the table beside him, carrying many large sheets of parchment and his writing quills. The king has drawn up a charter and invites the gathered adventurers to mark their names down on it as the first leaders of a new guild, specifically for the practice of their unique profession. He agrees that fortune-seeking, trouble-finding, and dragon-slaying is not your usual trade, and it's hard to formulate laws and regulations for such things, as laws are only as good as their enforcement, after all. But you can't have hordes of violent and enraged inhuman raiders and predators getting stirred up by such adventure seekers, and what of the treasures they do find? He gets reports all the time from the Arcane Academy of the sort of horrors they have to deal with, from unleashed magic long thought lost and forgotten, to citizens of this fair realm beset and bedeviled by all manner of things that no knight can really train for. He says that their business is warfare, not ghosts, ghouls, and gremlins. There are the rangers, of course, but they are trained by the elves for the most part and have their mores and traditions that are far older than even his great city and its ruling family, so he can't very well go ordering them around like some sort of wilderness guards. They do very well at what they do, and do very well by his people and his laws. Plus, they are vital to the enduring peace and friendship with the elven nations surrounding and within the kingdom. So he needs a guild of troubleshooters, not troublemakers, and with this official sanction, a measure of legitimacy that he is sure the adventurers will find most beneficial. But before they put their names to the documents, there is the matter of this new guild's lodgings. After much consideration, the king has agreed with the Arcane Academy and the learned and most pious scholars of the great cathedral in the city that such a venue should not be right within the city walls, given the inherent dangers of such things the adventurers' activities bring back from far-flung dungeons. As luck would have it, the king knows the perfect spot for the new guild. He pauses to sip his wine, and his eyes glimmer in the candlelight. He says that place is the Ebonhold. Before we get to the details of the Ebonhold adventure, Let's take a closer look at the City of Gaklagand, a classic, fortified and human-centric city in the heart of a relatively early era of a high fantasy civilization. If you follow the link in the description of this video below, it will take you to my Patreon site. This is where there is a random roll table I put together for anyone to view and use, copy and print out if you feel like. You don't need a detailed map of the city with everything described in great detail. Sure, that thing can be pretty, but still, you just need a list of places and things that are of use and interest to the player characters, with a general vibe of the city represented by a few words and a couple of key descriptions of things that are unique to that city and its culture, because every city has got its traits. You can sum them up quite simply. Gaklagand is proud and busy, loves the fact that it is home of the royal family, and is not overly nice to citizens from the more rural settlements. Despite relying on their goods and supplies quite heavily, as there is no way for the city population to feed and supply itself, with so much of the surrounding arable land dedicated to raising horses and keeping lots of livestock temporarily as they are brought there for trade. Most of the population spends most of their time in the city, working from their homes as skilled artisans. Mass production has not been invented yet, so all the more complicated items are manufactured from scratch by hand, by just a few people, and those people spend their whole lives just, making lanterns and lockboxes and candles and such. This is why a random roll table for things found in the city within the city walls will exclude just saying a house, because the house is also the workshop and the showroom, and it's the place where things like crossbows are sold, but it's also where they're made and apprentices to the craft both live and train. Gaklagand started out as a trade centre where the river passed on either side of a central island, where two bridges were built, allowing goods and people to be put on or taken off the riverboats below, using hoists and cranes powered by water wheels. This brought a lot of wealth and influence to the location, which gradually grew to be the capital of both river trade and general trading of goods and such from the lands all around. There were some brief wars back in the early days between various distant populations. Still, eventually, they became the vassal lordships that form the basis of the extended nobility and now provide all the armed forces and well-equipped knights which protect the whole central area of the Midlands. The city trade is still concentrated on the river island and the extended docks and shipyards of the outer river. The inner river cuts into the cliff, which forms the base of the rise on which the castle, magic academy and large cathedral all rest, with the tiers of the buildings on the hills being the locations of more prestigious and wealthy concerns. The inner wall is more like a man-made cliff surrounding that hill, with a wide urban area surrounded by a robust outer wall. Most of the buildings in the city have a basement built over sewer tunnels, with stone-walled street level a little higher than the actual cobbled streets, and then 2 or 3 upper levels of wood and plaster in the Tudor style, with slate and tiled rooftops. Humans tend to build their towns like this because dragons and such will set fire to the upper floors of buildings. Still, the valuables and the people can shelter in more sturdy stone structures below. Plus, it's said that the sewers are engineered so that the gates of the river upriver may be opened, flooding the tunnels to the point that all the basements will overflow into the streets and first floor levels of the buildings, in case the whole city is in danger of being burnt to the ground in some sort of inferno. However, this has never actually happened before. There have been disasters, but they have always been much more localized and specific. And this brings us back to the story of the Ebonhold. As you will be running this adventure, here is the story behind the location, the short version, because the players won't be overly interested in the deep lore of the place. Lord Arvanthair was born in the southern swamplands and sent by his family to study in Gaklagand, as Prince Sonfa Smythe was close to his age. Arvanthair rose to fame as a knighted noble and skilled mage. He won jousting tournaments, often against Prince Sonfa, fought in campaigns against inhuman tribes, and gained wealth from a slain dragon that had murdered his family with a vile sickness. He gained vast wealth but was badly disfigured in the battle. Building a tower near Gaklagand to protect an important river, he discovered the Ebonhold Caves. There he found the Nexus Crystal, a powerful artifact. Arvanthair kept the crystal a secret, driven by ambition and the desire for unmatched power. His pursuit led to a disaster that destroyed Ebbenhold and claimed all lives within. The adventurers are about to walk into a particularly gnarly dungeon that they'll probably remember for quite some time. Before we get to that video, I suggest you watch the original Dark Crystal movie by Jim Henson, as the Nexus Crystal is heavily inspired by the Dark Crystal, with my own tweaks on it. Also, be aware that what crawls around inside the tower is highly unpleasant, so prepare yourself for some really gruesome monsters. My name is AJ Pickett, this is Derailed Fantasy, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.